This is Tracy, Lindy's daughter from Lindy's Stamp Gang, or Lindy's Gang, however you know us. I wanted to go through and kind of show you some of our stuff that we have that's matching. Years ago when Mom first started back in the late 90s, she created both embossing powders and sprays first. And she created these sets of 5 because she wanted to create a combination of colors that you could just buy one set and at least have something to work with to do creations rather than having like all blue or red or whatever. So we still have the sets that she created. And then when I came out with the Magicals, I made sure to duplicate them exactly to the sprays. And because she didn't put the embossing powders in sets, I had to go through and match the embossing powder because at that point she had 100 colors of embossing powder. But I had to go and figure out which matched which close enough. So we don't say it's an exact match with a lot of our embossing powders, especially the older sets. But they are as close as we can get them. So they at least complement or are very, very close. But the names are not the same. So that's why I wanted to mention that. So here we've got the Autumn Leaves set of spray, magical, and embossing powder. Obviously sprays you guys have seen a ton of, and it's just a matter of filling these guys up. Remember, they come dry, and you're gonna fill them up to the, see that little fill line there on there, or to the top of the label. It's not an exact science. And sometimes you'll notice, this set actually did great. We hand fill and hand label everything here at Lindy's. So we do it all in our little warehouse in my backyard. And so they're not always perfect. We're just people. So anyway, we actually did pretty good on that one. I'm pretty excited. And our Magicals and our embossing powders come in these great tubes that are super great for stores because the lids stay on even if they're hanging. But you may have issue with it because they're really tight. So take something, either like this is grippers or a pair of scissors. I wouldn't recommend a pencil because I broke a few because they're in there tight. But instead of pulling straight out, which you can see, it doesn't work, you just kind of pop it to the side. So it's pretty simple once you get the technique. But before you have the technique, it can be quite frustrating. So anyway, I wanted to show you the colors really quick in this and to kind of talk about what you can do with them. So here I got an old dirty towel and I wanted to just spray out. Our first color in the set is Autumn Maple Crimson, which is a beautiful, beautiful crimson-y color. And you'll notice some of my sprays here have these cursive-y old labels. When I first started doing Lindy's, this was our first label that was colorized because Mom's were all either fluorescent pink, fluorescent blue, or fluorescent yellow, depending on what type of spray they were. So you never got to see what the color was. So I put that on there. But those are the older labels. These are the newer labels. No difference in the product. And what I wanted to show you, not the dirty spray bottle, but these guys have been sitting around for a good, I'd say probably 10 years. I hate to even admit that I don't use them that much. And the only thing I notice is the shimmers like to settle on the bottom. So you just need to shake them up. And you're going to do that anyway, just to get the color all nice and mixy. And then you just spray. You'll notice we do have a little bit of a circle for our sprayers. That was a Mom thing. And sometimes our sprayers get ornery. You want to have them at a tiny bit of an angle, not like this, which is what I was just doing myself. And I like to overspray them like that. Totally up to you what you want to do. This is the wet color. This is Autumn Maple Crimson sprayed. And I just sprayed it on one of those white tags and then heat it with a heat it with a heat gun to dry it. Anyway, and you can kind of get some shading like this when you play around with the heat gun as you're doing it while it's all wet like that. And then, here, let me take him and let him dry to the side. And you will see, actually, I'll leave him here. You can see when I paint with the Magical, same exact color, Autumn Maple Crimson, I'm going to start off with where it gets really dark. And obviously I have so much more variety I can do with a magical to paint, whether it's coloring in something or just creating a background or even doing it through a stencil. The magicals will mix with anything porous, or any type of, always say porous, but it's really any kind of medium. People use them in resin. They use it with any kind of art medium you can think. Anyway, that's that. Let me move on because I'm a ding-a-ling. So the next technique with the magicals, I like to get my little piece of paper wet. We like to sprinkle these guys. And yes, I know we all want the sifter jars. Me too. If you can find them really cheap, I need them. But in the meantime, you can take any magical, and now I put them away, of course. And we are trying to get these lids really tight. My poor little high school girls that are out there trying to tighten jars. And then you just use this little guy. And I probably have the worst technique of all people because I don't do this that often. But you're getting the same effect as having a sifter or a shaker or any of those kind of sprinkle jars that I'd love more. So that is sprinkled on there without a whole lot of water, you can see. And you can see those tiny little blue dots. And then I a lot of times like to spray a little extra on there just to kind of let it meld around. This is what it looks like dry. So you've got spray, sprinkled magical, and then the embossing powder we have that matches, remember they're not exact, is terracotta rust. And you can kind of see if I get it away from maybe the camera. It's the only one that's not a perfect match, but he's close, I promise. And then the next color in our set, and I'll just put him here so you can kind of see him, is Tibetan Poppy Teal. And here he is as a spray. And he's awesome. I mean, he is one of the most popular colors we have. It's this beautiful teal color. And then the shimmer is also a teal. And here he is sprinkled. So you can see, I obviously got too much water on, but you can see some blue and green and yellow that if you sprinkle a little bit, you'll get more of. And then this glorious embossing powder we have is Midnight Teal. And obviously he looks, hopefully on camera, looks gorgeous on there. It is a black-based embossing powder with a teal shimmer. So keep that in mind. But they're gorgeous. Gorgeous, tell ya. And now this is Cattail Copper Brown. And I didn't spray him a lot. He is darker, you can kind of see in here. But I like to see all of this exterior colors too. And the shimmer on here is a copper. You can see that in there. Obviously, Cattail Copper Brown. And here he is sprinkled as a magical. And then our Midnight Copper. So here's a little thing if you want to know. The Midnight means it's a black base. Not that you need to know it, but now you do. And I pulled all these old tags. These are ones Mom had made years ago for shows. And so I pulled them out because I was like, oh, they're pretty cool. She had just taken this paper tag and put the embossing powder, just sprinkled the actual powder. Nothing on there, just paper tag, sprinkle. And then you use your heat gun from below, which will not make it spread all over. Heat it from below and it becomes this kind of big mass of melted embossing powder. And then you take a rubber stamp, obviously not this one because it's not the same pattern, but you put it in there while it's hot. As it starts to cool just a little bit, maybe a minute at most, you pull it out and you get this. It doesn't hurt your stamp. It makes all this cool texture. Anyway, if you were wondering about that, that's this guy. That's Cattail Copper Brown and his matching Midnight Copper. Then we've got Ponderosa Pines Olive. And you can see he's a nice, perfect, piney green with a gold shimmer. Here he is as a sprinkled magical with that gorgeous gold showing. Hopefully you can see it. And Tannenbaum Green Gold, like, oh, Tannenbaum, oh, Tannenbaum, you know, oh, Christmas tree, oh, Christmas tree. Anyway, this guy is Tannenbaum Green Gold. And he is our complementary green. in the embossing powder set. And last but certainly not least is Red Hot Poker Orange, which you can see how I kind of let it spritz just a little bit to get what looks like texture, even though it's really just made with a sprayer. But it's a beautiful, rich orange. Obviously gets darker than this if you are painting with the magical. And it has that beautiful gold shimmer. And then this guy is sprinkled Red Hot Poker Orange. Isn't he gorgeous? And, you know, because I'm using the fan brush, you get spots, and even the sifters and all that, you get spots where it's heavier. I just think it's so cool. It almost looks like metal on there. Anyway, so that is that one. And the matching one, I don't have one of Mom's tags, so I'd use one of my ones I made. This is Cleopatra Copper. And you can see here what I'm talking about. When you put the powder on, it melts. And then we just did a baby stamp in him. So that is the end of Autumn Leaves.